Hello everyone, Corey here with Shutter Negative with another tutorial for you today. Today we're going to be going over something of a sore subject, and that is art theft. A very real problem in the online world that we live in today. Anytime you post your work online, you run the risk of some devious person deciding to steal it and post it online as their own. I myself had this problem happen a few years ago back when I had first started photography. Even though the work in question had very little views and I was not very known at the time, someone had found it, decided to steal it, and post it as their own. Luckily, it was on an art site that I was already a member of and had posted that work to already, so it was a simple matter to get it taken down. But what if it's to a website you've never been to before? Or what if they print it out and try to pass it off as theirs in the real world? This video is going to go over a few simple steps and tricks you can do to keep that from happening, and even if that does happen, having a very simple way to prove that you are the owner of that work. Now, while I will be doing this in Photoshop, you can use most of these tips and tricks in other programs, image editors, and even a few of them in Windows itself. Now, the first we're going to go over is setting file information. Every file contains not only the image data that you see on the screen right now, but also extra information about the file itself. Any digital photographer should already know about this. When you take a photo on your camera, the camera sets information into the file that details the kind of camera that was used to take the photo, shot settings, and other information. This information is stored in a format called EXIF data. There are a multitude of different formats that file information can be stored in. Now, Photoshop gives us a very easy tool to go ahead and set extra file information on this image. This one you're seeing right here was shot at the Dallas Arboretum, and I have already gone through and done my level and color adjustment and all the other final edits to this. So now I want to set the information on the file to show that I am the owner and that I hold the copyright, as well as what kind of copyright is on this photo. To do this, it's very simple. All we need to do is go up to File, go down to Info, and on Windows you can hit Alt-Shift-Control-I in case you have the default keyboard shortcut set up. Once we click on this window opens up with all the different types of information we can set. It will also allow you to look over at your camera data to see information about the shot itself. Now, the information we're going to be editing is the description box right here. We can go ahead and put in the document title, which in this case the photo is named Shearing. And then for the author, I'll put my name, which once you start setting this information, Photoshop will remember it, making it very easy to set it in the future. Now, as the title, I'm going to put photographer. Now, I also have it set to show that I am the owner and photographer for 7 Photography DFW, my photography company. In the description, you can write a short description about the photo. Ooh. A couple typos there. You can also put information about who wrote the description as well as keywords. Now, down here is the important part, and that is where we set the copyright status. Of course, this photo right here is copyrighted to me. You could also set something in the public domain if you wanted to set it out as something other people can use. And now I'm going to set the copyright notice. Now, I don't just write my own, and you can very well just write your own copyright notice. Just put in the copyright symbol and write copyright to your name and the year you took the photo. But I use what's called the Creative Commons. What this is a nonprofit organization that allows you to use a legal system that they have set up to copyright your photos, but still allowing your work to be viewed and downloaded online. Now, this is very important. With traditional copyright, you own the photo, and technically no one is even allowed to download it. Creative Commons gives you a way to share your photo online, but allow people to download it and share it to their friends as long as they attribute it to you. Now, there are a multitude of different Creative Commons licenses you can use for your work, And to pick one, simply click over here on the Choose License button. Oop, almost forgot. And the address you can see right here is creativecommons.org, but you'll also be able to find that link in the description box for the video. So I'm going to select Choose License. Now, Creative Commons website will walk you through a very simple process to pick which license you want to use. In this case, would you like to allow commercial uses of your work? What that means is, do you want other people to be able to use your work commercially? I do not, so I'm going to select No. Allow modifications of your work. Let's say that you're a stock photographer. You make work that you allow other people to use in their own images. In this case, this is not, so I'm going to select No. Jurisdiction of your license, you really want to leave it as international unless you want to set it specifically to your country. As for the additional information, you can set the kind of work, in this case it's an image, the title, who to attribute it to, a URL if you had your own website, a source work URL in case you use someone else's work that's under Creative Commons, and a URL to more permissions. Now once I hit select license, as you can see it'll give you information you can put on your own website. I'm going to copy this text right here, head back into Photoshop and paste it right there. Go back over here to Creative Commons, and if I click, and as you can see there's a link right here, which if I click is the website that people would go to see what kind of license your work is under. I'm going to copy that address, which is creativcommons.org/licenses/by-nc-nd/3.0/. I'm going to go back into Photoshop. I'm going to paste that in the copyright info URL. I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. Now in Photoshop you will notice a change here in the file information right here. As you can see, it now has a copyright symbol before it. Now whenever you post this artwork online, that information will stay with the photo. Most people who still art don't ever think to look at that information or edit it. So most of the time when they post it up on another website, it will still contain that information showing that you are the copyright owner. But what if they're a little bit smarter and remove that? The next part we're going to talk about is watermarks. Now you've more than likely seen or maybe even used watermarks in the past. They are usually a logo image or your name in text that you put over top of the image to show without a shadow of a doubt that you are the creator. Now, most of the time people use very large watermarks that are hard to remove. The problem is that this deters the viewer from getting a good look at your image or your artwork. Instead, they pretty much see a giant watermark in a photo hiding behind it. Whenever I watermark an image, I do it in such a way that it would be almost impossible for the person to even notice that there's a watermark. What this means is that someone, yes, could very easily still steal my work, but now they're not going to notice the watermark, so they're not going to even try to remove it. So when they post it somewhere else, it's very easy to prove that I am the originator of the photo. Now I'm going to go ahead and create a watermark on this image right here. I'm going to do that by selecting the custom shape tool, which if you don't see it, simply click on the arrow right there. You might see it as the rectangle tool. I'm going to select custom shape. Now I already have these custom shapes loaded. If you need to know how to create a custom shape, search online. You'll find some very easy tutorials on how to create custom shapes. I already have one, the logo for my company. I'm going to select it, and I'm going to draw it holding shift down so it remains in its proportions. I'm going to put it right there. Now I want to put it somewhere where there's a lot of detail. In this case, I'm going to put it very close to the center of the flower where there's a good bit of detail. Now that looks really horrible, but we're not going to be leaving it like that. I'm now going to right click on the layer and go to blending options, and I'm going to set the blend mode to overlay, and then I'm going to change the opacity down to 3%. Now as you can tell, you really can't even see the watermark anymore. But if we were to zoom in on the image, you can clearly make out the edges of the watermark. And if we were to adjust the levels, on here. Let's make a new little adjustment layer. Sorry about that. Had a small brain fart for a moment there. But if we were to adjust the levels on it, to bring out a little bit more contrast, you can more easily see that there is a watermark hidden in the image. Go ahead and drop that down and get rid of these two layers right here real quick. Now that is one form of watermark that you can use to show that the photo is yours. But that one is completely invisible to the naked eye for the most part. You also want to put a watermark on your image that's easily visible, but off in a corner so that people don't really pay attention to it, they pay attention to the artwork itself. This way, thieves usually will pass by your work because it's got a watermark, which means more work for them. So I'm going to go ahead back to my custom shape tool and put it once again up here in the corner. This time, I'm just going to set the opacity right here in the layer window, and I'm going to drop it down to about 15%. So now we have a visible watermark which does not distract the eye. If this was a lighter color photo, I would set the watermark as a black color, and once again, play with the opacity until I get it just right. So now we've gone through quite a few steps to make sure that your image is your image. We have the file info set to show your name as the owner and the creator, as well as the copyright information for the photo. We have a hidden watermark that no one can see normally, and is also not going to take away from the photo itself. And we also have a highly visible watermark set off in the corner, so that way thieves will usually pass by your work because it means extra work for them to steal it. Now I have a few other small little tips for you to keep your work from being stolen. And these are a few common good practice things that most people don't do anyway. For one, never upload the high resolution versions of your artwork, especially your photos, online. Whenever I finish editing a photo that I'm going to submit to an art website, I save it in a couple different formats. I save the Photoshop document in the full-size resolution. I then save a shrunk down version that's shrunk down just a little bit for any website where I offer prints, such as on DeviantArt.com. And then I shrink it down into a much smaller web version, usually about 800 pixels wide or so. That is what I post on the public part of DeviantArt. So that way, if someone tries to steal my work, I can show that I have the high resolution source file. And they, of course, won't be able to show that. That is it for this tutorial. Once again, I am Corey with Shutter Negative, and until next time.